Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to take a look at another brand new car. Yes, another one, which is the 2019 Porsche 935. To obtain this car, all you need to do is get 20 points in the autumn season of the festival playlist, which is pretty straightforward. If you find a group of friends or something to do the trial with, do one of the event labs, photo challenge, and a collectible thing, you're already there. I, of course, did the rivals at the beginning of the series because that gets you some points every week. But yeah, you don't have to do all that much of the playlist to obtain this car. This, of course, being the second brand new vehicle in this series. Last week, we took a look at the Huracan STO, which was Summer's 20-point prize. Next week, I'll be back to take a look at the RS6, and in spring, the Mission R. There are, of course, the second prize cars as well, but none of those are new, and neither are the series prizes. This new 2019 935 is heavily based on the Porsche GT2 RS, with the same power output of 691 horsepower and similar torque figures, but weighs nearly 100 kilos less, has grippier tyres, and looks like this, as you saw in the intro there. It is, of course, track only, as it very clearly has no headlights, which I think does look a little bit odd, to be honest, although I do, of course, understand why they've done it, because this car is inspired by the original Porsche 935, which I'll put an image of somewhere on screen if you're not familiar with it. These kind of racing cars with the slant nose of the past, which looked very much like this, of course. The most famous being nicknamed Moby Dick, which I'll get a picture of as well, after the whale, of course, because of its extreme aero, giving it that distinctive side profile. What I do love on this and the originals is how on the back you can kind of see a 911 buried under that swooping tail all the way down in the depth of the bodywork, which is kind of an interesting look. So it's not necessarily a pretty car, but I do quite like the way it looks, just because it's so different and so mad. This car, though, in the world of Forza, is quite a controversial one, because like the Mission R, the Porsche we're getting in a couple of weeks, this was actually in one of the Motorsport trailers, which is one of the reasons why people were excited to get that game. I believe it was also one of the cars that was discreetly removed from the list after the trailer, and now it's popped up in Horizon. So, yeah, there was quite a lot of outrage when the cars disappeared from the list. But now it's free in Forza Horizon, so it's still one of the exclusive cars from the Motorsport game that was taken off that list that's now appeared in this game. It's all a little bit odd. It kind of feels like they're making some last-minute decisions and changes, kind of panicking when the community is upset. But anyway, it's a new car, so I'm happy to see it here. Should we go and see what upgrades and customization are available for it? So, upgrades and customization. Let's head to the upgrade shop first here. As you can see, this car is S2932 from standard, which is quite substantially more than the GT2 RS's S1888 standard PI, which I think is, well, partly down to the 100 kilos of weight saving, but also down to grippier tyres, better downforce, and all of these things that track-only cars tend to have. There are, of course, there's an engine swap, to a racing V12, if you want it to sound more like that instead of that. There's an all-wheel drive swap, of course, but there's nothing unique or interesting. There's no aero options, because it's already a racing car. There are some tyre upgrades. Those, for example, drop it into S1, which you might see are owned, rather interestingly. You can do tyre widths, track width, all of your usual kind of stuff, but yeah, no aero-y options. You can put race brakes on, it's already on race suspension, and things like that. There's not many gearbox or differential options, because it's a racing car, it already kind of has all of this. There's, of course, your engine upgrades, including the all-new upgrade, which I'm not going to do because I've got bored of that already. But there you go. Nothing exciting or new for this car, but all the upgrades that you would expect, and a potential to drop it into S1 class, which we'll have a play about with in a second. In terms of painting and options for that, there is only one manufacturer colour, which is this kind of livery that I suppose they were shown in. I don't think they've necessarily all been sold in this one. It's quite a limited run car. But it does have paint groups. Paint 1, as you would expect, is the body, and paint group 2, interestingly, is the wing and the wing mirrors. Yeah. So, out of interest, instead of jumping straight into racing this car or upgrading it, we thought we'd try drag racing it against a GT3, the new one, but tuned up to be equivalent to a GT3 RS and a GT2 RS. But this thing absolutely took off the line and left those two in the dust, winning that drag race quite convincingly. So we thought of a couple of other Porsches we could put it up against. A Taycan, obviously with its ridiculously fast launch, in theory, and a 918, the kind of, well, ultimate Porsche road car, basically, to see if the track-only car could cope against those. And yeah, as you might have expected, the 918 flew off into the distance with its all-wheel drive system and, well, much higher top speed. Although, interestingly, the Taycan struggled even off the line. It didn't really beat the 935, where I thought it would launch away first. We're very quickly past that car. But interesting to compare it to some other Porsche models. And after that quick drag race test against some other Porsches, I applied this K1Z Bala tune, ready to try the car out in some Horizon open racing in S1 class. I know, again, like we did with the Lambo last week. What? I've gone mad. Why am I racing in such fast categories? So, after applying this tune, a few of us managed to get into the second race of an adventure at the Emerald Circuit, which went okay, but not excellently, as I started to get used to the reduced grip of the rally tyres required to drop the car into S1 class. So that was that, and then the final race of that first adventure was the Copper Canyon Sprint, where we were so much faster than everything on the first straight, but losing a load of places as soon as I found a corner. But luckily, being a sprint, there was plenty of chances to speed past people throughout the race, as chaos ensued all around, and there were lots of lovely straights to go past on. Eventually then, I finished 4th, somehow. So we moved on to the next adventure, starting at the Horizon Mexico circuit, where I launched into the lead, getting quite a good grid spot there, before being overtaken by another 935, in fact. By the end of the race, though, the Vipers had taken the top 2 places, and I was down in 5th, but there were 935s from 3rd to 6th, so not a bad showing for this car, even though I didn't finish that well in that race.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Second race then was the Lanús Sprint, where I had a fantastic race against a Viper for 4th, which the Porsche somehow came out victorious in, just at the end there. And finally we raced at Los Jardins, where I started on pole, got slowed, battling people a bit, and eventually dropped slightly to another 4th place finish. But not bad at all from this car. I did very much enjoy driving it. It seems pretty decent in S1, only really being beaten by other 935s and Dodge Vipers, which we know are ridiculously fast. I did also really enjoy racing this in S1, much like the Lamborghini last week, and intend to use it again in future if I do any more of this class of Horizon Open. So, as you can see, I've removed the rather nice Gulf livery that we had on for the drag racing and the online races, because what I want to do is kind of make my own interpretation of this livery, swapping the 70 for my number 13, having a couple of subtle sponsors down there, and maybe changing the colour from the slightly boring white. So let's have a go with that quickly to finish off today's look at this brand new car. So I just came up with quite a simple design in the end, didn't even put some of the sponsors and adverts on. Not sure how I feel about it. I think I still kind of prefer the standard one or the Gulf colours, but it's a similar sort of style thing, and it's got my number and my colour on it, so I suppose I'm kind of happy with this variation. But anyway, that probably is going to do it for a very first look at the Porsche 935 here on Forza Horizon 5. Quite an interesting addition, not necessarily a car I would have chosen or asked for, but I have really enjoyed driving it both stock and with that tune on, which turned out to be reasonably good actually online, and I was surprised how much faster this was than the other Porsches in the drag racing, obviously apart from the 918, which is a totally different category of car anyway, but interesting to compare it to those. Seemed pretty good in online, and I'll definitely be using it again. So do go and pick it up if you haven't already. It is quite an interesting one, and obviously with all of that stuff around it being in motorsport then not in motorsport then in here is kind of interesting, but all a little bit weird. But yeah, it is a fun car in the end, so do go and get it if you haven't already. But that is going to do it for a very first look at this brand new Porsche 935 here on Forza Horizon 5. I'll be back same time next week to take a look at the Audi RS6, and the following week to take a look at the Porsche Mission R. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with the next video very soon.